Hi, this is Susan Kuznitsky. I am going to show you today how I would approach a plein air painting. I like to work small when I'm outside. I can get a lot done in a small, this is a 6x8 piece of Luxe archival sanded paper. This is a photo reference. I took this last summer when I was teaching a workshop in Provence. There's just endless amount of stuff to paint there, but I just zero in on one little thing. I always suggest to new beginner plein air painters that you don't try and paint the whole world, so to speak, that you try and just find a little intimate scene, a little nook, a little corner, and start with that. So what I'm doing here, I just have a gray pastel pencil, any neutral color pastel pencil. I happen to like Carbothello or Cretacolor pencils. There's a lot of good brands out there. And I'm just going to do a very, very light and loose blocking. I'm looking at the whole overall shape of the bouquet of sunflowers, which is one of my, I think just not mine, but very popular subject matter throughout art history. They're just such happy flowers. And I'm going to just, so again, I'm getting the overall shape of, I got the bucket that they're in, and I'm looking at the little bucket over here, the black darker bucket, just trying to place everything where I want to. Just made little tick marks so I know where my center line is, just kind of eyeballing it. And I'm looking at the overall composition, which includes the flowers themselves and the negative shapes around the flowers. And the next thing I'm going to do is just sort of indicate, I just call them the eyes, the centers. They look like eyes, big eyes to me, whatever you want to call them, but just kind of placing the main ones. I don't think I need to get every single one. Another thing you need to learn as you develop your skills at plein air painting is what to leave in and what to leave out. Like, I'm not going to put these people in there. If I were standing in the flower market doing this, I would have to make exactly the same decisions that I'm making right here and now. So just getting, again, like an overall, you could actually use regular pencil or charcoal pencil in place of a pastel pencil as well. Anything, just kind of get it placed. And I'm going to kind of accentuate this little hit of light that's coming in. It's kind of mimicking the angle of the shadow on the bucket. So there's going to be some light going on up in here. All right, the next thing I'm going to do, I took out the colors already that I want to use for this painting, most of them. And I'm going to do an alcohol wash. And I do this really pretty quickly, and it's going to look almost like an abstract painting, because what I'm doing, my thinking here is I am breaking this photo down into what I call puzzle shapes. So first step is I'm kind of pretending like I'm going to be creating a jigsaw puzzle for a toddler. So, big chunky shapes, no little details necessary at this point. So I'm looking at all the shape of the greens of the foliage, and they kind of connect over here, a little bit over here. And there we go. A little bit here. And I'm pressing not hard. This is the kind of mark I'm making. I call it a swipe. This is pressing hard. So you can see the big difference. I don't want to overfill up the tooth of this paper. It's a sanded paper. It's a 400 grit. I like to use UArt paper as well. They're both really good for the way I paint. All right, so one kind of layer here of that green, and then I'm going to get one darker color and just indicate the centers. Maybe that's a little too dark. I'm using this kind of charcoal-y brown color. And if you can use hard or soft pastels. If you're using soft pastels, don't press as hard as you would if you're using a hard pastel. You just don't want to get too much pigment on there straight away. So I'm just kind of creating a pattern of happy little sunflower centers, just kind of wherever I see the main ones. Again, it's going to look very, very abstract in the beginning. Now I'm taking a bright orange. I'm going to just start to do the same thing here. I'm not painting petals, just painting overall shape that the petals create. It's going to go up here. There's some over here. My goal here is to get a layer of color on top of this piece of paper. I have worked larger outdoors, but it's where I live in Oregon, it's kind of iffy if you ever can get the same weather or atmosphere 2 days in a row. So it's a little tricky here. Some parts of the country might be easier for that, but I like to do these little studies, and then if I'm really jazzed about it, I can either finish it from photos back in my studio, or I could use that to create a larger painting if I really like it. All right, so here we go, just getting more color everywhere. I love these guys over here that are looking downwards. And then I'm going to pick up one lighter green over here. It just indicates some of the light on the foliage. Again, you want to get enough pigment that it will move around. You'll see when I apply the alcohol wash, I'm going to be using isopropyl alcohol, or otherwise known as rubbing alcohol. You can also use Gamsol, mineral spirits. You can use water. I don't like using water, but it's doable. But rubbing alcohol is pretty easy to get anywhere. So you can use, Blick has a product called Noon, no odor mineral spirits. That's another good one. Whatever you happen to have. When you're doing this outdoors, this isopropyl alcohol dries like so fast, like almost instantly, because it's a lot of alcohol. It's a high content of alcohol in it. Here's just I'm going to indicate the shape of these red guys over here. And there's some red also in these crates that the flower market had all over the place, that this vendor had anyway. And before I get any farther, I want to indicate the shadow on the bucket. I'm going to use like a gray and using this gray, and I'm going to also add a little bit of, nope, not that one. I always suggest you have a little test pad here. I do that all the time in my studio and when I'm outside painting. Just like to give it a little test pad before I apply it to my paper. And then also want to indicate another important technique here is I'm going to go a little darker than I want to end up. With pastels, you work from dark to light. Same in oil, same in acrylic, different than watercolors. So dark to light. So I want to get darker and stronger than I know I'm going to end up. This is my little kind of shadow color underneath here in this corner. And I want to get a nice, rich, dark, I'm going to use this very dark, it's going to look like black, but it's very dark purple. I'm just going to get the shape of the other bucket. And I'm going to figure out what I'm going to do back here. I'm going to just make it very neutral for now in the background, ignoring everything, any people that I see in my photo, just ignoring. I'm not interested in that for this painting. Again, I'm going to get a second color, just a little bit darker, where I see these arches, but they're going to be very abstract. They're not going to be very realistic, but something back here. So I'm getting close, and then I see up in that corner where I indicated that I want to use that little stream of light coming in. It's going to kind of mimic the light down here. All right, we're almost there. Just want to get this paper filled in. Again, like I said, it's almost going to look a bit abstract-y. I'm not looking for details, just looking for the main shapes. And I want the paper pretty well filled as far as any white showing. I don't want, I'm trying to cover the white. The other way to approach this too, you can work on toned paper and then you wouldn't be doing an underpainting, but I really like doing the underpaintings. All right, we're just about there, we're getting close. It's gonna be fun to play with these reds and oranges and yellows. It was an incredibly beautiful place to be and paint in Provence. It was very magical. All right, we're just about there. Let's get this corner filled in a little bit. So like I said, I don't want any like big, huge spaces of white showing. This should do it. And you'll be able to tell right away if you have not enough, because when you apply it with your brush, it's not going to do anything. So I'm just using a very inexpensive synthetic brush that I got also at Blick. Just nothing fancy for this part. Just something that will spread the color, because it's going to turn into a pigment once I apply the alcohol. All right, I think that's good. And I'm using just, this is what I take when I go out painting, just a screw-on little jar, and I can screw tight. Got a little bit of the alcohol in there. Got my paper towel. And I'm going to start with the lightest color first, just so I don't dirty up the jar that I have here. So I'm just what I call moistening the pastel. I'm not drenching it. I'm just wetting it. And it's going to look dark, but it's going to dry a little lighter. All right, so just kind of going around for all the petals, shapes of the petals. And I'm going to get that one little area up top here. And I pretty much go color by color mostly, just like I said, so I don't get this jar that I have in my hand all dark from the dark colors. So this is what I would call step one. Well, step one and what step two. Step one would be sketching it out, gesture drawing it, getting it placed. Step two is applying the color and the alcohol. And when I'm done with this, I'm going to let it dry. It really will dry really fast, but I want to make sure it's super dry. And this is a part where you can really play around with it. I use local color for my underpaintings generally. I know some artists like to do the opposite color, the complementary color. It's all good. It's all, it's all workable. It's seriously impossible to screw it up at this point, because you're going to work right over it with the hard and soft pastels. All right, so just about there. That would be my underpainting. That's that dark bucket, and there's some dark under here. A little bit more right in here. Getting this orange. I should have done that earlier, but oh well. And just this edge of the bucket. All right, this is dripping a little bit, but oh well. For a subject matter like this, drips can kind of actually be fun. You never know. All right, a little bit more on the green, and then we're going to let it dry.